All right, so there's a lot to talk about, and I'm probably going to be rambling on pretty quickly here. So if you want to watch any of these actual videos of the live stream, which this information came from, I'll have it in the link in the description there. So the first thing I want to say is proof of useful work is the new forward-thinking feature release by FLUX. They have a new management system, they have the new operating system, and they have a new delivery system. And we're going to go through all that in these slides here, which I basically just took out of a live stream and just snipped here for you. So one of the reasons for proof of useful work, which is the obvious reasons, is that it needs to be a function or a feature that someone is going to pay for. So what we're going to get into, I'm going to demonstrate to you how they have their operating system set up, which is really efficient and really cool. You can dual mine, and you can mine while you're in a queue waiting for your computer to get selected for proof of useful work, and then once it's done that, it'll go back to mining. Anyways, they thought of everything with this project, and it's really exciting. I'm excited for them to release this. So anyways, what we're seeing here is just their basically management system. So unlike a Flux node, which if any of you have run one, it, I don't have anything good about to say about the Flux node, but this seems as though that they've really focused on the customer and the user experience in terms of a dashboard, a GUI, something that you can click on and you can actually see results of your GPUs, your CPUs, and everything what's being utilized. So they really put a lot of effort into their dashboard, which looks amazing, and we'll see that here in a little bit. The other thing that I'm really excited about is Daniel has said several times online that they're really miner focused, and that is something you don't hear about from a lot of companies. They kind of shy away from the miner, I guess, niche because they don't want to be associated with whatever negativity miners have in terms of environmental impact, et cetera, et cetera. So one of the great things about Flux is that they're really focused on decentralization, and in order to do that, they respect the miners, they give them their payments for helping out the network, and they themselves have said that they're miners, which is really cool. So here's some of the operating model that they have. They are going to have a lot of proof of useful storage, which I'm really excited to get into. I have a ton of storage down there. I've used Chia for a lot, and I would love to just build out more and more storage for these guys. So this is a project that I would love to kind of tie into, and proof of useful storage is one of them too. So right now it's called Project Thunder. I already have the Thunder node. It's not worth the hassle, to be honest, but I'm hoping that their proof of useful work will allow us to expand on that node and whatnot. The next things that we're going to look at here is basically some of their use cases. So these are the things that customers are going to be able to rent out. So there's way more use cases than the ones that are listed here, but this is just a little like tidbit of ideas of what they're going to be renting out our proof of useful work machines for. So obviously AI, that's the hot topic of everything these days. Cloud gaming slash streaming, that's really cool. Rendering, so basically online rendering, that's another thing. Medical research, VR, AR, all of these things, and it's not limited to any of this. It is whatever they design and offer for our computers to be utilized for. And the way they determine how your computer is going to be utilized is through the next cool, I guess, queuing system. So basically the way it delivers the useful work is it auto assigns the optimal task based on the benchmarks that are run on your computer. And then it associates that computer with the request, finishes the request, whether it has to load balance it across multiple other computers, and then once it's finished, you go back to mining. So what you'll see here is how they configure each node. Do not go out and buy all of the most expensive CPUs and 200 terabytes of RAM or whatever. There's a lot of stuff that you probably have in your basement or wherever that you can use for this. You can use a gaming computer and turn it into a server, or in my case, what I ended up building was multiple proof of useful work machines because I had older motherboards that still hit all the requirements on this. So basically how it works is you run the FLUX operating system, it will benchmark your system, and it'll do that continuously throughout the day. So maybe every 3 hours, I think I saw in one of the pictures. So it's going to benchmark your computer just to make sure that everything is the same and that you're still online. Because when a request comes in from a customer, it's going to go into a queue, and it's going to say, okay, this computer had the best uptime and the best RAM speeds. So we're going to utilize this computer for its RAM, and then we're going to utilize this computer for its storage because it has the fastest storage, and it's going to be able to offset a request based on whatever systems are ranked the best. So it tags the machine, okay, based on the requirements. So this machine is more applicable to online gaming, so it's going to be used for online gaming, and it'll tag it as an online gaming machine. It'll also tag ones for good AI compute, depending on your graphics cards. If you have a whole bunch of 4090s, then it'll say, okay, here's a ton of AI compute that can run on these 4090s, and it'll tag your computer as associated with that benchmark. So that's really, really cool. The model that they've implemented, again, is really cool because they are so miner centric. It is such a breath of fresh air. So because it's a queued system, meaning your computer is going to be idle until it gets a request from a customer, and that customer actually hits the requirements that your computer can work. So let's say I have, an older, which I do, an older i7 12 core, but I have three 3090s. If the customer asks for AI compute and it hits my, it goes through the ledger, hits my computer for the request for the work, I will be able to be mining another coin or even Flux on that machine. Once I get a request from a customer, it will switch to the request. So whether it's CPU intensive, GPU intensive, storage intensive, it will turn off the mining, switch to that request, now however long that request lasts, and then once it's done, it will go back on to mining the coins that you were previously mining, which is, it's brilliant. Brilliant. You don't have to have a computer that's just sitting there in a queue doing nothing. It can be mining while it's sitting there, and then it'll receive a proof of useful work request, perform that, and then go back to mining, that's what I'm going to be doing right out the get-go. So again, their prices are, they'll do whatever the pricing that you get for it, but I'm not too worried about the payouts at this point. It's just going to be cool to be a part of this. Now, one of the things that you guys are all going to be inundated with is a lot of online content creators are going to be doing different things. And what I want my viewers to see is read what is required. And if you have existing stuff, then just use that and see how it goes. So again, the next video I have, we're going to do a build of my first proof of useful work, and it meets and breaches any of these requirements. So a motherboard has to have virtualization, which every motherboard has virtualization, so it's not put in here. Each GPU has to be connected through minimum 8x PCI lane connectivity, which is typically in that large slot where you can't use a riser, you have to plug the computer directly into the large slot. We're going to go through some of the motherboards here because this is the most important part of your computer. So we'll go through that at the end of this, but the CPU, obviously it supports virtualization, like I said, but it has to have 4 threads, not cores, 4 threads per GPU. So if you have 3 GPUs in the rig, all going at 8x PCI speed, you need a 12 thread CPU processor, 4 threads per GPU. So that's 4 threads, 4, 8, 12. That will suffice. The more GPUs you add, the more threads you need. RAM, you need the total VRAM of the GPUs. So again, in my system, I have 3 GPUs at 8 gigs each. So that's 8, 16, 24 gigs, plus an additional 25% RAM. So 32 gigs is perfect for my system. You don't need to go out and buy 128 gigs of RAM. 32 gigs for a 3 GPU rig, 12 threads is perfect. That's all you need. So don't go out and spend 256 gigs of money on or whatever on RAM. It's just, it says very specifically the VRAM of your GPU plus 25% more. That's it. And the storage device is going to be an NVMe, and then for extra storage, probably is going to be either SSDs, most likely the fastest storage you can get. I don't know that spinning drives is going to be very useful for this because you need to have on demand basically as much as your bandwidth will allow to write data to that storage. So NVMe is number one, and then if you want to expand with extra drives, spinning disks probably won't be good for this. So I would just go with a bunch of SSDs, which is probably what I'm going to do. I'm going to build a storage server that's just either NVMe's or SSDs for these guys because that's awesome. They also classify your type of miner. So you can have casual miner, you can have proof of useful work miners, proof of useful work FluxOS, and both FluxOS and miners. So they have different configurations when you're configuring this, which is also really good. So you set it up in what you think that your system's going to be more geared for. If it's a casual one and you're just going to be on for maybe 5-6 hours a day or something like that, then it's going to take note that, okay, this guy, when he's on, he'll be in the queue, but he doesn't have a very good uptime, so you're probably going to get bounced down to the bottom of the queue. Here's a quick dashboard view. Again, they went with a GUI, a very clean, nice GUI. This is very unlike their node setups where it's basically all command line based. They were able to create a GUI with all of your, basically like Hive OS. So you can have all of your proof of useful work computers with all the information set out there, and if it's working on something, its stability and all the different information. This is awesome, man. This is exactly what we were looking for. Basically a Hive OS, but for proof of useful work. Their Flux OS is going to be, it's going to be huge. This is the benchmarking section. So like I said, so on this, this is the one that shows the time of the benchmarks. Every 3.5 hours or whatever, it's going to rerun the benchmarks and it's going to evaluate your score in those four main categories: CPU, GPU, RAM, and VRAM. So it's going to rank your computer based on all this stuff, as well as storage and the timing and the latency and your networking. And it's going to have a score, and in different sections, you will rank higher or lower. So this is how it selects you from the queuing system. If your computer is high on CPU score, you're going to go up to AI compute or whatever it is that it determines. So this shows that, you can just continuously benchmark and make sure you can do some tweaking, and then make sure that your stuff's always optimized. This is amazing. This is like, it cannot be overstated how great of a GUI and operating system that this is. And I'm so excited. I'm buying more Flux today literally because of all of this stuff. I have a huge confidence in this company. Here's some more benchmarking, and it'll show you all the different information, and look how nicely it's all laid out. Just great. Your latency here, 9 milliseconds. You want to have a good network connection. I am upgrading my network, which is already a gigabyte, but I'm going to be upgrading it to 3 gigabytes up and down for this. So that's coming tomorrow. But anyways, so this is the Flux proof of useful work. I'm gonna see if I can jump into a couple of things on the motherboards right now, so you guys can get a good idea of what you should buy. And if you already have something, you can use it, and it will be it'll hit these requirements. So don't go out and buy like brand new stuff, because actually the new motherboards will not let you have more than two GPUs on it. So stay tuned. Okay, so what we're going to go through here is some of the things that if you're trying to build this into a desktop, you really need to focus on how much GPU you can put in there. And the newer motherboards only allow you to have 2 GPUs. So you go out and buying a huge brand new system, but you can only put two GPUs, is really not optimizing the use space and your components to its max capability. So this is one of the, I just bought this online because it's a great motherboard. It's a LGA 2011. So it's older, but I have a ton of i7s that have 12 cores in them. What you want to focus on is their 8x slots. I mean, these turn into 8x after you have more than one GPU. And what you have to see is that there has to be a space in between each slot. Every single one of your graphics card is going to have to be a single U GPU. So the Founders Editions, the Zotacs, and the Dells, those are single slot GPUs, and I'll show you that in my build guide. But for now, basically what you need to look at is when they have multiple PCI lanes here, there has to be a space in between each of them because you can't fit a card here. So what we have here is you can do, actually, technically you can do 4 graphics cards on this one, but in my configuration, because I'm not building in a desktop, I'm building in a server, the wall of the server comes to the motherboard tray here. So I can only fit 3 on this one. So it would go 1 here, 2, and 3, and I wouldn't be able to utilize this bottom slot because it's going to breach through the wall of my server. There's a couple of other ones that I have. I actually have this one as well, and this will allow me to have 3 as well, because you go 1 space 2 space 3, and the graphics card is not going to breach the wall of the motherboard tray here. So I got 3 GPUs into this one. I got 3 GPUs into actually not this one, different one. But anyways, you see what I'm trying to get at. So this is also another really good purchase if you're looking for, again, an older motherboard that will give you 4 GPUs. So you can go 1, 2, skip, 3, skip, 4. And then if you're building this in a desktop, then you're going to be able to have it kind of hanging over. So those are really good finds, and you might have some there. The problem with the new motherboards, and I looked everywhere for different configurations, and most of them are built in such a way that you can put 2, maybe 3 GPUs if you're building it in a desktop. So 1, skip, 2, skip, 3, and then your GPU is going to come below the motherboard tray, which is okay, again, if it's in a desktop, but for my scenario, it's not. Here's another one where there's a brand new AMD motherboard, only 2 slots. A lot of the Intels are just only 2 slots. So here's 1, and then there's a PCIe. They're really not, I don't know why they got away from the multiple PCIe lanes, but you really got to focus on how many lanes and how much you can utilize. So in this scenario, you have 1, skip, 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 2. So you can only put 2, and there's 4 PCIe lanes. So these are the things that you need to look out for. And like I said, you probably already have something that has the ability to do 3 GPUs already, because I built one in this, and I also built one in another X99 whatever motherboard. It's not this one, but it's something similar to this. So yeah, so that's the biggest thing, that if you're gonna buy, you have to, don't buy one of these Dell Optiplex things that I've seen other YouTubers already show. Don't buy that. Buy something that you can maximize the actual lanes and you can put in multiple GPUs. If you can put in 4 GPUs on one motherboard, that is great, because then you're actually utilizing the motherboard's capability and you're going to have 4 graphics cards there. All the graphics cards are going to have to be single slot graphics cards, because the bigger they are, obviously, the more space they take up. So I've been kind of hoarding all of my Founders and Zotacs and Dells and the I think what it is, XC3s, the EVGA XC3s or CX3s. Those are all single slot cards, and so I've basically sold all of my bigger cards, and I'm hoarding and buying all the single slot cards, because for these types of situations, you get to put each card next to itself, and you'll see that in my build log that I'm going to release probably 24 hours after you see this video. It's already been going on for a long time, so I hope you guys enjoyed this. I'm really excited for the FLUX proof of useful work. Do not go out and buy these Dells. Just don't do it. just don't do it. You got to really focus on the requirements, which we went through, and you got to focus on the PCIe lanes, maximizing those out with space. And your graphics cards should all be single slot GPUs, and then you're good to go. And you can make multiple of these proof of useful work machines. So, anyways, really excited to see the beta of this dashboard and Flux operating system. I hope you are too. Stay tuned for the build log. I had a lot of fun doing it, and I've got a ton of these things to build. So stay tuned, subscribe, like, and we'll see you on the next ones. Oh yeah,